Sam Aguiar, attorney for Breonna Taylor's family, is kind enough to join us down overlooking Injustice Square from the patio of the Hall of Justice. How appropriate is that? Sam, thanks for joining Shay Wolfolk and me. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. You know, my wife would have yelled at me if I wasn't down here.
Well, she's an Uber friend, and so are you. And, you know, you and I talked the other day because I had heard a rumor that charges were not going to be filed against any of the officers involved in Breonna Taylor's death, and you actually had to reach out and contact some attorneys and, boy, make some strong points. And then you also went public on Facebook that, you know, that was absolutely not the case. And I know that you've told me that there's so much to do to resolve the issues of the day, and you can't possibly address all of them. But I know you said one big thing is, what are we looking for in a new chief of police?
So that's a good question. So I guess I'll start out just because here I am, I'm the one who watches TV, and I say, just answer the damn question. And then all of a sudden these people start going off on a tangent. First thing I will do, though, if you don't mind, is I will talk about the rumors. And then let's talk about the police chief.
You absolutely. Come on over here, Shay, next to me if you want to. That's good.
So this week's frustrating. And basically what we've seen, unfortunately, from all camps is that sometimes there's a reluctance to just wait and hear what the truth is. And there's just kind of this sense of impatience of, hey, you know, what's going on here? And initially, you know, some of even the facts of Breonna's murder were, you know, they didn't come out true. And then all of a sudden you see, because of Twitter and everything else across the country, there's certain things that aren't true. And over the past few weeks, we've seen some frustrating rumors. 3 weeks ago, you know, unfortunately, we're finding it on a lot of LMPD social media accounts. And then I've got literally friends at the gym who are hearing from, you know, relatives of cops. Hey, you know, my dad and my cousin are police officers, and they say, sorry, these officers aren't going to be charged. A few weeks ago, we're seeing all over social media, Breonna Taylor was fired from her EMT position for being a drug dealer and running a drug enterprise. Bullshit, you know? I mean, at the end of the day, a long time ago, even when this whole ridiculous story came out, it shows right there that she resigned. She was making $13.95 an hour, and thankfully Norton and U of L Hospital, Jewish at the time, were willing to bring her in, let her work frontline, pay her more money, more fulfilling position. So then, you know, we see this rumor going around, and it's like, you know, why is this coming from police officers? Please stop. You're not helping anybody right here. And then we start hearing rumors that, hey, listen, you know, there's rioters coming in from out of town, and they're doing this and they're doing that. And that came straight from the mayor's office, you know, and then all of a sudden we see, you know, it comes out, hey, most of the problems are local, but we can handle it. And then we see rumors this week that, you know, Wednesday, first it was Monday, then it was Tuesday, then it was Wednesday, that there were going to be conclusive announcements that the mayor wasn't going to, or that not that the mayor, but that the city or whoever they think was the charging authority here, which is the AG's office and the FBI, weren't going to pursue any charges. They were going to announce it against these officers, and that doesn't help anybody, you know.
No, it doesn't.
And frankly, you know, right now, from the Fed's perspective and from the AG's perspective, I'm not as impatient as some of the community, because they didn't get the damn file. They didn't even get it referred to them for months. And then all they get is the police investigative file. Well, let's face it, that's the police investigating themselves. So if the Feds and the AG had just deferred to that investigation and said, all right, we're going to make our findings based upon that, I would have had a big problem with that. So I would much rather them come in like they've done and say, we're going to get our own prosecutors, our own investigator, our own team in here. And yeah, it takes time. It's frustrating. But you better believe I'd rather see a file that's full of their work than just the police investigating themselves. Now, as it goes to the police chief, I've never been a police officer. I've never been in law enforcement. I certainly respect and appreciate, you know, the tough position you're in when you've got to make sure you get home to your family every day, and you also got to make sure our streets are safe. But I do think we need to bring in a police chief that is going to clean house. And what I mean by that is that if you're a dirty officer, you got to go. If you're an officer that knows that you're working with a dirty officer and you just keep your mouth shut, you got to go. But you know what? For those officers that are doing great things for us every single day, you got to take care of those officers. You know, if they can get paid more going to, you know, patrol some little community in Oldham County or something, that's ridiculous. They need to stay here. We need to keep them here. We need to make them happy and proud to work here. And we need to recruit better and pay them better. If you're a police chief, though, I don't envy the situation that Chief Schrader got placed into right now. But it blew my mind, and I commend him for that letter that he sent to Brett Hankison.
Talk to us a little bit about that too, Sam. The letter, Shay, I know you were going to ask about that too. The letter that was sent with intent to terminate had very strong wording in it, specifically citing what he did at the site of Breonna Taylor's shooting.
Sure. Well,
as grounds for dismissal. Sure.
Well, what I hope the community realize first and foremost is that the chief makes it very clear that, for one reason or another, that file wasn't presented to him until, I think, 3 days ago. He made a decision. Something must have been so apparent in what he got that he made a very quick decision, he made a firm decision, and he made the right decision. So I commend him for that. And any chief that comes in, I'd love to see that kind of, sternness, because you know what that does? Hopefully that sends a message to the police department that we're not going to tolerate this shit. And, yeah, we took too long right here, but in his defense, he's only been in for a few weeks. And, hopefully that sets a precedent that any of this stuff going forward is taking place, you're gone. Frustrations aside, with all the misinformation over the past few weeks, we can fire an officer, we can't fire an officer, he's got due process. First, then it's KRS 67C, and then all of a sudden it's a little hidden memo of understanding. All that stuff aside, thank you to him for sending that letter. And I hope the other officers are appreciative of that too, because let's be real, they know that this police department is better today than it was yesterday, because, that crooked, dirty, predatory cop is gone. And what I hope it does is it sends a message and makes the other officers that are doing everything right for us each day say, if there's another Hankison out here, his ass needs to be gone too. And now finally maybe I have a chief or a system in place to where I know if I report this or if this comes up, maybe they'll actually let him go. So anyways, I'd love to see a chief that comes in from maybe a smaller jurisdiction that has a track record of going into a department that is plagued with problems, cleaning it up.
A troubleshooter.
Well, not just a troubleshooter, but somebody that maybe will challenge the mayor too, because, for Conrad for years, gosh, for lack of better words, it seems like he was just the mayor's bitch. And I know that, I hope people don't take that the wrong way. I've got a bad mouth, and I hear he's a really nice guy. But at the same time, somebody needs to stand up and say, this is wrong. We know this is going on. We can't get away with this any longer. By God, we've promised transparency and accountability for years. But hey, look, in Atlanta, they made a decision in a couple of days. In Minneapolis, they made aggressive decisions.
Yep.
In Buffalo, they made aggressive decisions.
Yep.
In Brunswick, they made aggressive decisions. So how can we really be the epitome of accountability and transparency, video or not? And I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm tired of hearing simply these 3 officers did not have body cameras, so it makes the decision that much more difficult. When are we going to hear if the other 6 officers on scene had a body camera activated? If you watch this wordsmithing that keeps going on, it's those 3 officers weren't equipped with body cameras. Well, you know what? How about the other 6? And how about the fact that we have documentation that some of those other 6 do routinely wear body cameras on search warrants? Why are they dodging that right now?
How about all the neighbors who said they didn't hear a thing until a barrage of gunfire?
Yeah, we were at 16. I think now with our private investigator, we're up to 18 neighbors that didn't hear shit. These officers did not announce themselves. And if you think about it, a knock and no announce, hell, that's more dangerous than simply just ramming through the door. If I'm in bed tonight with my wife and I'm, like Kenny and Breonna were, maybe 30 feet away from the door, and they just come up and bust right through and surround me, I probably don't have a chance to get up and do something. I'm scared shitless at that point, doing whatever I can, trying to protect my wife, but they're surrounding me. But you know what? When they go over there and they're knocking and you're yelling, who is it? And they're just sitting there and not responding. What the hell do they think that's going to accomplish? Because that right there gets you time to get up, arm yourself, say, who the hell is out there? It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're not just given the common courtesy of saying, it's the police with a search warrant. Maybe even at that point have your patrol officer outside, get on the radio, flash his light so they know that it really is the police out there.
Yeah, because he said he thought it was a home invasion.
And rightfully so. If it's 1 o'clock in the morning at my house tonight and there's knocking on my door and I'm saying, who is it? Nobody answers, responding. And then it keeps going, I'm screaming, who is it? And they're not responding. And then all of a sudden 3 bangs go and I see the hinges start to come off my door. That is a home invasion. I mean, that is a raid. And I don't know who the hell's doing it. And neither did Kenny, neither did Breonna. And what people don't realize too, though, is that thankfully, because of Breonna's law, it's very clear, that is also a no-knock warrant, or a no-knock execution of a warrant. What they did that night was awful.
Sam, you're the closest person to the case that I know, and you have the facts. You have the eyewitness testimony of Kenny Walker. You have the eyewitness testimony of anyone who has been closely involved. So there have been so many pieces of misinformation, and I know Shay is going to ask you about that. Walk us through the facts of what happened that night that you are aware of.
Sure. So some of it we've been able to go out and get our own information, but some of it we're at the mercy of the city right now because they won't honor our subpoenas and won't produce a damn thing. Now, I do respect the fact that we want integrity in the investigation associated with the feds and with the AG's office, but at the same time, we've got a civil case that counts, and it's pulling teeth getting information right now. What I can tell you is that from a general timeline, what it looks like, at least according to the documents, is that this warrant was originally supposed to be executed shortly after 11 o'clock on March 12th. There were 5 no-knock warrants that were executed that day by Judge Mary Shaw. There was a tremendous amount of false information within the warrant as it relates to Breonna specifically. I would be highly surprised if there is not severe accountability to everybody who is associated with the execution of that warrant, whether it's the false intelligence, it's the false information inside of it. Josh Janes has finally been put on administrative reassignment.
That's the detective who issued the warrant or who gathered the information for the warrant?
Correct. What's going to come out is that the information in that warrant, some of it was strictly just made up. Some of it was distorted. None of it met the grounds for a no-knock warrant request. And it was bullshit. I mean,
and the postal inspector did not back up what they claimed.
No, not at all. And let's face it, if warrants like that could be executed on a daily basis, this is a scary world that we live in. And one of the issues that really needs to come forward is this whole warrior cop, militarization of cop, war on drug problem that gets worse and worse and worse. When you are equipping your police force with drones and airplanes and camouflage gear and, heavy duty SWAT equipment and letting them in plain clothes go ram through doors and because of marijuana and other stuff, that's just a recipe for disaster. But anyways, I digress. My ADHD, I think, kicks in too much.
That's all right.
So from what the documents look like, it's about 11:15-ish. They're supposed to stage for the warrant, for all the warrants. And they don't execute until about 12:40. They do execute at a different residence across town first. Their main target is over there. Main 2 targets are over there. They've got them detained. Obviously they still need to execute the actual search part of the warrant over there, but they've got the guy. We've got several reports of misinformation that these police have as it relates to the execution of the warrant at Breonna's place. First of all, if you look at the own whiteboard that Tom Wine puts up, he's got names on there that end up being on the names from Elliott, which is the different street across town. So they got some explaining to do there. They've got 3007 Springfield on there, so maybe that was the source of the whole rumor all along. They had the wrong house. Breonna Taylor's name is on the warrant. Mm-hmm. They didn't have the wrong house, but they certainly didn't even know how to get the address right. On their whiteboard, so come on now. We've got plainclothes officers showing up over there. We've got some surveillance. And when I say surveillance, there's a few neighbors that shot some video afterwards. They get out with their phones and they shoot down and want to see what's going on because, frankly, they just heard a barrage of gunshots. We've got certain officers, because we've got some of John Mattingly's statement presented by Tom Wine, that are up there for the execution of the warrant. You all right? Everything good?
Good.
Okay. So we got some folks that are up there whose name we don't see anywhere. We've got a lieutenant that's part of serving this warrant, Sean Hoover. We've got John Mattingly that's up there. We got Brett Hankerson who's up there. Certainly we got Miles Cosgrove that's around in there somewhere. But we also have other officers that are listed on the whiteboard that are there somewhere. These officers don't know shit. They don't even know that there's a rear exit, or not a rear exit to the apartment. All there is one way in and one way out, but yet their grounds for a no-knock are, exigent circumstances because there's potential to flee. Where the hell are they going to flee? There's nowhere to leave the apartment. After the apartment, they're surrounding, after they execute this warrant, they're surrounding behind a different apartment, thinking it's part of Breonna's apartment. Their intelligence was that Breonna was the only person who was there. Well, oh, by the way, her 20-year-old sister lives there. Thank God she wasn't there that night. And she's usually there watching over a 2-year-old. So, anyways, they get in. Mattingly says on his statement, hey, I looked down the hall. I cleared the living room, looked down the hall, and I see a male and a female figure. Give me a break, okay? I've been in that apartment. There were no lights on that night. It is 12:45. That is a dark hallway. Maybe if I had night vision goggles on, I could see somebody down there. Otherwise, I'm not discerning any human figures there. I might see the presence of somebody, but I don't know it's a guy and a girl. Walker fires a shot. He readily concedes that. He fires it towards the ground, intends for it to be a warning shot, get people to leave, but John Mattingly does get struck. And then...
Did Kenny put his pants on? The rumor was he got up and put his clothes on.
Yeah, he had a holster. So.
All right.
These cops then start reporting on dispatch audio that he's bunkered up in the house with an assault rifle, and they're asking for SWAT to get over there with long guns. He had a 9mm, and that's it. There was no assault rifle. That was total bullshit. And it just goes to show the lengths that happen after these incidents to try to create the narrative quickly. So Kenny was in there. It is a miracle that he did not get shot, because everything else in that place did get shot. Every single room had bullets.
And
Pots,
next door?
Pans, bathroom. Next door had 5 shots go through there. The patio door, glass patio door, next door, shot. And I'm really surprised that the letter from Chief Schrader identified Hank as firing 10 shots. I'd like to know the basis for that, because we have neighbors saying that there was a reload. We have so many shots that could have only come from outside based upon the trajectory angles and everything else. And I'd be really surprised if either other people weren't shooting in from outside, or if Hankerson shot a lot more than 10 times from outside. That was the one thing in the letter that was a little concerning, but the reality is again, kudos to the chief for calling out his, that he essentially says that was wanton endangerment at a minimum. Even with just what he wrote, it sounded like attempted murder. It's a miracle that Janiyah was not home, that a child was not there, and that the 5-year-old sleeping child next door, along with his pregnant mother and her, I think, fiance, but don't quote me on that. Well, I guess don't quote me on that. I'm on right here. Didn't get hit.
Yes.
But Breonna did, and she didn't do a damn thing wrong. And
was she in bed?
No. So I don't hold it against the folks that say that she was asleep, as long as their intention to say the following. When the officers started knocking on that door and not announcing themselves, Kenny is awake, kind of snoozing off, watching a movie. Breonna is fast asleep. The knocks keep coming. Breonna gets up. She's shouting, "Who is it?" Now, this whole narrative by the Commonwealth Attorney that, it's very possible that there was, announcing coming from outside and questions coming from inside, and nobody heard each other. I got furious by that. But I got curious too. So I went out to the apartment complex the next day. Thankfully, 3 neighbors, same type of door, same type of apartments, were willing to go in there, say, "Who is it?" Go to the back, and clear as day. I hear them clear as day. And then I say, "Do you hear me?" Clear as day. They heard me. Okay? We're not talking about, a low-level apartment complex here, But these are, there's 8 apartments per building. These are thin walls.
Yes.
I mean, you can hear.
We've all lived in those.
We've all lived in those. I spent my whole, I think I lived in 10 different apartments in college, and it was whichever ones that I could find that were the cheapest.
Yeah.
And this one, frankly, I mean, it wasn't bad. It's just they're thin walls.
Yeah.
You could hear.
Yeah.
I'm lost. Where are we at next?
You're fine. We're going through the process, and we're asking the questions because people don't know, and there's so much information and so many rumors, and you're telling us what the progression of events was.
Yeah. So at that point, what it looks like is that the officers are certainly retreating at that point. Kenny fires 1 shot. So all this I see a lot of rumors online like this was a gunfight back and forth. No, he fired 1 shot. Period. And then it turned into a massacre, and that massacre was from outside, firing blindly, recklessly, carelessly, wantonly, everywhere. I'm telling you, when I tell you this apartment was riddled with bullets, a backpack, multiple pots and pans, every single room, clocks, furniture, a toolbox, beds, bathrooms.
The kids, the neighbors' stuff next door.
Yeah, I mean,
and then Kenny got arrested.
One bullet goes up through the ceiling. How in the world did that happen? I mean, there's still so many questions.
And then Kenny got arrested.
Kenny sure did get arrested.
Tell us about that.
So, I've been fortunate enough to get to know Kenny's family, and they're amazing. Kenny's mother, literally the first time I ever met her, had pie right there, insisting that I eat it, and God bless it, was some of the best pie I've ever had. Kenny's father, 24 years Army, well-respected local high school football coach. Kenny, completely clean record, licensed to carry a firearm, had never ever used that firearm, outside of a gun range, ever. The initial announcement is essentially, we announced that we were cops. He comes in and shoots at us anyway, and it's attempted murder. It took until, I think, May 29th and then finally give us that 911 audio that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to listen to. And you want to talk about a kid that was genuine? That's it. That was telling it how it was. He's on the phone 911 right then and there, basically saying, help. Somebody came into the house. We don't know who it is. I don't know who it is. And this is 3 minutes after the shooting, and he still doesn't have a clue. And we've got stand your ground laws. We got the Castle Doctrine, and they knew damn good and well that he didn't do anything wrong.
Did they actually come into the apartment, Sam?
So that's a good question. My understanding is that the plainclothes officers never went in, but they were able to coordinate Kenny's exit from the apartment prior to SWAT even getting there, and that it was SWAT that made entry and cleared, and ultimately, SWAT is required under the policies to wear body cameras, so there should be footage of that as well.
So we're waiting on cameras from the footage from the body camera. A lot of stuff too. Shay, you've been quiet, so I'm going to give you an opportunity.
Well, hold on. There's one more thing that's getting blown over.
Okay, tell us.
There's one other thing that's getting blown over that I think is very important.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Hankerson goes AWOL after the shooting. He leaves. You do not ever leave the scene of an officer-involved shooting, especially if your own firearm was discharged. Now, he's been assigned a criminal defense lawyer, a very good one, named Steve Schroering, who I respect highly. He's defended police officers for years. He's an ethical guy. He's a good lawyer. He did come out and say that Brett Hankerson didn't know if John Mattingly was even alive. He rushed down to the hospital, and that's where he was the whole time. I'm not so confident that that's what it was. We need more information on that. You're supposed to be assigned a peer escort right away. You don't leave their side. And here's this guy who goes missing. And I've got serious concerns about it.
Where was he?
We'll see.
We know that he went to Florida, apparently, right, afterwards?
I don't think so.
No? That was the rumor.
No, I don't think that, these officers, it does sound like they've received some some threats, which sucks. You know, I mean, it sucks. I hate to hear that. And he was assigned a security detail. I don't think that we would have paid for that security detail as a city to go follow him in Florida. I don't know that this, you know, I don't know where that came from, but I do think he's. I mean, I think he's been around, and frankly, you know, as much as I want that guy to go to jail, as happy as I was yesterday to see a good first step, you know, let the justice system play its course. These folks don't need those threats. Right now, you know, for us to get real change, we need to show that we're the ones that are able to peacefully protest, demand justice, and that we're not going to resort to the levels that these officers resorted to at Breonna Taylor's house and across country.
Shay.
What you got?
I have a lot of viewers that are.
We got some viewers right now, or what?
Oh yeah,
we've got a lot of viewers.
Are concerned, you know, the cop being fired. Some feel that they're just throwing us a bone. Then you have those who think, oh, this is a setup. What can you say about that, and what can you clarify? Because there's so many rumors that it's causing issues.
Yeah. So my initial reaction is that they had enough to fire this guy years ago. They also had enough to fire this guy the day of the shooting. Okay. If you got an officer that goes AWOL from the scene, I don't give a damn what the reason is. That is an egregious policy violation that warranted his termination in there. They also knew that day that he did everything that they all of a sudden fired him for this week. That wasn't some big secret the day of. You know, literally, this shooting happens at 12:45. You know, they're convening and PIU is getting together. They know that day that there are bullets everywhere and that the bullets come from the person firing outside, and they know that they're next door. So again, policies, protocols, all this delay, all this bullshit, you know, we got to go through XYZ channels, KRS 67C. No, he should have been fired that day. But sure, it's a bone. I'll take it. You know, it's nowhere near close enough. Nowhere near. The way that letter is written essentially says, if this was our PIU investigation and we presented this to the Commonwealth Attorney, we would be recommending wanton endangerment, maybe attempted murder, and by God, I hope the AG's office look damn close at that letter, because they're going to be under a lot of scrutiny if they don't draw at least similar conclusions. But it was too long. It took too long. Yesterday was a great day, seeing that guy is not going to be polluting our streets any longer and threatening women, threatening, you know, everybody, frankly. So no, it's not enough. And but let's roll. What's next? What's the next question?
Sam, one of our very brave live casters, Jason Downey, who's been down here 24/7, rolling on everything that's been happening, says, for those of us who want to follow along and get facts on case progression, what's the best way to do that? What's our best source of information? Right now, you're our best source of information. So how do we continue to get wonderful updates like this and clarification and clearing up of misinformation?
I don't know. Get a list of questions each week and fire them over to me, and I'll do my best. Maybe we can do a Q&A. You know, I like the facts. I'm not really an on-camera guy. You know that.
You're so good on camera.
No, I like.
Your perspective.
Yeah. You're getting a lot of positive responses here, and a lot of relief, and a lot of thank yous for giving us information, because there has been a dearth of actual information, Sam.
That's a big word. I don't even know what dearth means. So
a lacking of.
Gotcha. In terms of information, you know, that's my job right now. When Tamika Palmer, I mean, what a blessing for us. You know, we've been able to get important cases to try to get change on, and what a blessing for us to be able to represent this family, because Tamika Palmer is an incredible woman, amazing. Janiyah Palmer is an amazing young lady. This whole family.
Who's going to grow up without a sister.
Yeah, but who is making sure that she's going to make her sister proud, who's up there smiling down on her right now. So what a privilege. But, you know, I made a promise to her early on that I will do everything in my damn power to get her the truth. And that's all she's asked for since day one. So we really are tired of hearing, we just want the truth. You know, come on.
Do you think the mayor's going to survive this?
Yeah, I mean, it's let's see what comes out in this case. Let's hope that it eventually clicks with him, and that he starts, instead of getting on every time and saying, we've done the Synergy Project. I have no clue what the Synergy Project is. We've done this. We implemented body cameras. You know, basically it seems like every time he gets on, he's prefacing by saying, gosh, you guys are lucky to have this administration. We've done so much for you, and we want the truth. Let's hope that, you know, that mentality changes. I'd much rather, you know, I make a ton of mistakes, Tara, ton. But I've come to realize that if you can go to bed with a clear conscience, people are forgiving in nature. And if you just tell the truth and, you know, you're transparent, that we can get past this. But until he can get up there and say, listen, I could have done better. You know, I'm learning from Atlanta. I'm learning from Minneapolis. I'm learning from Buffalo. This shit ain't going to happen again, you know. And, you know, we're cleaning house in this department. We're really changing the way that we say that we're transparent when really we're probably the least transparent jurisdiction out there that's dealing with these situations. Until he can accept that, he's going to be under a lot of scrutiny, and it's rightful scrutiny. I mean, it's, you know, no offense, because I don't envy, you know, everybody. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be in his shoes right now, but he deserves the scrutiny right now.
All right, this week we saw a lot of, I call it propaganda. That's a JK statement, propaganda. Rumors that needed to be dispelled. What can you touch on? Because what I want to do is I want folks to understand that these rumors are put out for a reason.
Damn right they are.
And can we just touch on that? Because it's going to get violent.
Riots.
Yeah.
To incite riots.
Yeah, you know why these rumors are being put out? Because there is a contingent out there, and do realize when I say the police, I hate that because I am not anti-police. There are great police officers out there. Now, granted, if they have information right now and they're keeping it to themselves and they're choosing the blue line over, you know, justice, I got a problem with them too. But the source of these rumors that we're finding are folks, including police officers, that want to incite violence. Okay? Think about it. Right now, it is a situation where there is a nationwide cry to reduce police budgets. I hate the term defunding the police because I think whoever came up with the term defunding immediately created a catalyst for arguments right there.
Right.
So there is there's an outcry right now to reduce police budgets, to take money and put it towards other things that could potentially help out our community. But if you think about it, if all of a sudden the country starts rioting, if all of a sudden, you know, police sweep in and have to do all these things to stop it, then that shuts down the conversation a little bit. We don't get what we're asking for without peaceful change, without, you know, it's almost like when you're just sitting around and somebody's just in your face, and all you want to do is just clock them. But you know, if you clock them, you're actually the first one to act, and your ass is the one going to jail. That's what's going on right now, is it's let's provoke. But you know what? If we do something that's violent, if we do something that's reactionary to it, then that's what the story's going to be. It's not going to be that somebody was across the street laughing at you, smirking at you, provoking you, coming up to you as close as they can without hitting you. The millisecond we start reacting to that is the millisecond that we succumb to exactly what they want us to succumb to. So just remember right now, if there's rumors out there and they're circulating more, probably being done for a reason, especially if your initial reaction to it is, gosh, we need to be violent to stop this right here. Then mission accomplished by that rumor, right? You know, right now, we've been fortunate in the sense that while the Attorney General's office can't tell us a lot, they can put us at ease when rumors like this come around. While the feds can't tell us a lot, they can put us at ease when there's rumors like this. So, you know, like when I put up the other day, trust me, there's not going to be an announcement today that these officers aren't getting charged. I'm not just going to put it out there without having some sort of information, you know.
Well, believe me, we have a budding GoFundMe to buy you lunch and a beer every week to get factual updates from from other live casters.
That's not a bad deal right there.
Well, we'll be glad to host that for you.
I'm a cheap date too. When it comes to lunch, you know, I eat anything.
Well, we would appreciate those continued updates only because of the fact that, unfortunately, we don't get a lot of clarity in broadcast media reports because, number one, there are a lot of people determining what a story is going to be. Number two, the media has been unwelcomed by a lot of the protesters because of coverage that was not favorable to them. And those of us who are live casting, like Shay Shay, like Jason, like Riot Heart, like Milky Mess TV. These guys are out here doing an incredible job showing it as it's happening and not editing.
Well, let's not forget. So imagine a world right now where you didn't have that live casting, where you didn't have an incredible community right now that is coming out and doing everything, to make change.
Yep.
Imagine if we didn't have this tipping point across the country where protesters are really showing, hey, we're the better people. We're not the ones that are going to go out there and do, exactly what we're protesting against. And imagine, if we didn't have powerful voices right now, like Ben Crump. My God.
Amazing.
My God, what a blessing it is to be able to work with him and Lonita Baker. Lonita is so comforting with Tamika, yet so powerful with her voice.
She's amazing.
Ben, I don't know how he does it, because he finds time for me whenever we need it, and while still being an unbelievable voice for so many families that need one right now. And even just everything is, this really is a tipping point. And I told you beforehand, you can't ask me what kind of change we're asking for in the end, and how we get there, because it's a lot and it's going to take a while to get there, but we got to keep fighting. And when we see things yesterday, like I said, it's a little bit of a bone. Hankerson gone. Hey, that wasn't the mayor. That was everybody. Everybody. Breonna's Law. That was everybody. Chief Conrad getting, finally fired when he probably should have been fired 5 or 6 years ago. Like I said, I hate to say it like that. Nice guy from what I've heard, but did not need to be running this police department, or any department for that matter. That was everybody who did that. So let's keep going.
Sam, Jason Downey says, chaos breeds opportunity for those who seek to take advantage of others. Stay vigilant. I think there's a big difference between the protesters who we see coming out here every day and every night, and the opportunists who may be benefiting from the damage, the ones who may be looting, the ones who may be smashing the ATMs.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's coming out here breaking windows, going in and taking money, they're not trying to make change. They're trying to commit crimes and get away with it. So, the more voices, the better. Unrest creates change. Being out here and raising your voice and us doing everything that we're doing, that creates unrest. That creates change. Going and, taking a bunch of money and looting and going into businesses that have nothing to do with this right here, that's being opportunistic right there. And that those folks that are doing that are not trying to make any change.
Do you have any suggestions? I have a lot of folks, especially my 45 and up crowd, and I'm constantly, every day, challenging them to come out. Even if they can't march and protest or drive and protest, do something. But the question I keep being asked, well, what other things can I do? So what can they do, whether it's put pressure on the mayor, calling, what kind of suggestions? Because we all need to keep the pressure on.
Yeah. There's so much that can be done right now. AG's office. Don't forget that, Daniel Cameron right now, he's really wanting to, it looks like he's really wanting to impress Mitch McConnell. It looks like he's really wanting to impress the White House. Again, he seems like a nice guy. I've never met him, but I was a little frustrated by his interview this week where he basically said, I can't answer that. It's still under investigation. It sounded real familiar. Don't forget, pressure on Mitch McConnell. It is an election here for him, and he has a lot of influence, it seems like, over Daniel Cameron. And ultimately right now, their office is, I'm confident in the thorough nature of the work that they're doing. I'm pleased to hear that they're not just going to defer to PIU, but that's some pressure right there. But the thing that's not getting enough pressure right now, okay? So, selfishly, I could sit here and talk about everything we could do to get charges in Breonna Taylor's case. And by God, we better. But charges in Breonna Taylor's case does not fix the problem. Legislation helps a lot. For example, there needs to be more talk. Police officers, the fact that they don't get drug and alcohol testing mandatory after an officer-involved shooting is crazy. That is ridiculous. Change that, okay? The fact that LMPD officers with citizen complaints filed against them, if the chief decides in 90 days to not do anything with it, that gets destroyed and never makes it into their personnel file. That is absolutely ridiculous, okay? The fact that officers are supposed to have the internal investigations done within 45 days through professional standards, and that we see on average these things now take 1 to 3 years, like Hankison's took 2 years, that is absolutely ridiculous. That an officer has all of these rights, that cities can engage in memos of understanding that we never see, that all of a sudden magically even increase their rights that they already have under the statutes, that should not be allowed. There are so many things that a legislature should do. Police departments should not be solely responsible for investigating themselves after, officer uses of force that result in death or officer-involved shootings. There's absolutely no reason that all of a sudden they should be coming in and doing what they always do, which is a half-assed investigation. And there's so many other things that we could list. But anyways, point being is work with folks that can actually have some influence over crafting new legislation, make new laws. Take the discretion out of the hands of police departments. Make certain things mandatory. And obviously, too, demand that our new police chief be somebody that's going to come in and not just be somebody that doesn't challenge the mayor, not just be somebody that gets up, that reads a speech that clearly he didn't write himself because he has to look down at it the whole time, that clearly came from the administration standing behind him. And also, I know that some people are going to hear this and say, well, really? Also promote a system that is going to have our city with better, more well-paid police officers and get rid of the ones that should have been out of here a long time ago. If we have a system where a police officer actually feels like he is being treated better here than somewhere else, then maybe we actually get to recruit the best that way. Another thing that I think is incredibly important is you need to incentivize the officers to live in the communities that they patrol. Somebody who lives in Taylorsville, Kentucky and that's never spent any time in the 1st or 2nd division growing up is not going to be respected by that community, is not going to respect that community, and it's going to be a me versus them mentality. But if all of a sudden, as part of this program, you bring officers in and say, hey, you live in the 6th division, you know the people in the 6th division, we're going to put you in the 6th division. That is your neighborhood. And oh, by the way, we're going to incentivize you to live here. And we're going to make sure over the first 2 months that you're going to all these places that you don't know and telling them, hey, I live here with you. I want to go ahead and, spend an afternoon each week, volunteering on the basketball team. Be a real community member. Because all of a sudden, if you're protecting your community, there's that stronger sense of allegiance right there. And you're going to get some respect, and you're going to give some respect. I could keep going. We done, though? I know
you got to go. Shay, you all good?
You're good. You are getting kudos over here. One comment from Yvette Humphrey. She said, here's the thing. He knows he might be in jeopardy of losing some clients because he's taking a stance. But at the same time, he's going to gain all of us having his back because we know we can trust you. And then they'll give you a thumbs up.
You just got to do what's right.
That's right.
You do. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you to everybody.
We appreciate you.
Yeah,
We'll
let's
see you
keep
again
fighting.
soon.
Thank you so much.
Take care, Sam.